Good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever time of day it is, folks. Welcome to the first video I've done in a while. Today I figured we'd talk a little bit about Pokemon Champions and then go into talking about Pokemon Waves, the two big Pokemon Day reveals, if you will. I'm not scripting this video because I'm lazy, but you could expect some more scripted stuff soon. I finally have a build of Adobe Premiere back, and I'm very happy to report I could start working. Anyway, let's get on with it. So, had a look at Pokemon Champions for the Pokemon Day, and I'll put some stuff up on the screen, but it did not look promising to me, to be honest. I've just got to be honest about it. Bit of a Debbie Downer. The victory point system sounds nice, but there are, 4 currencies? I'm going to do a full video for Champions when it releases, by the way, so I won't be going into granular detail, but I do have some notes. I think all the victory point stuff sounds fine. I like that you can earn it through battles. I like you can't buy it. However, I suspect the distribution of it will be minimal, as in the rewards you get will be minimal, to encourage spending money on the other 4 currencies, of which I don't have their names to hand, nor do I really care, to be honest, because I'm not going to be buying them. Those 4 currencies are obviously going to be paid, so victory points will be minimal, I bet, to ensure distribution, as I just said. Yeah, but I think that as a whole, that victory point system, I could be wrong, which is why I'm waiting. I hope I am, because if I am, then that would be fantastic. But yeah, I'm a bit concerned by what I'm seeing with Champions, but we'll talk about some specifics. Obviously, we've got 350 Pokemon added with release, and we can see more over time. I don't quite understand why there's so few, less than I think the base games of Scarlet and Violet or Sword and Shield before this, especially considering the models for over 800 Pokemon are now available on Switch and presumably mobile as well, because they're all in the same engine, right? So why is it so few? I understand perhaps for limited meta games, but you could just manually apply rules, right? I mean, whoever the developer is, off the top of my head, I can't remember. I would suspect it's Ilka, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I don't understand why it's so few Pokemon. I don't understand the gimmick, the sort of rental gimmick, where you get a pool of Pokemon every 22 hours, is it? To pull from, and you can pay real money for in-game currency to speed up, but not necessarily immediately rotate this pool of Pokemon, and then you have to pay real money for a different currency, or maybe it's the same one again, I don't know the specifics, for these Pokemon to be recruited permanently. I think this is preposterous, because you're not paying money to guarantee a Pokemon, right? So if I didn't own a Sneasler or Pokemon Legends Arceus either, and I wanted to battle with a Sneasler, I would have to hope that I play the game on a day where Sneasler is in the pool, so I could potentially, purchase a use pass for it to have it. Failing that, I would have to purchase repeatedly this in-game currency to cycle and eventually get to Sneasler, which I think is not really something that it's just not a good practice. It's not consumer friendly at all, but whatever. I'm not Game Freak. I'm not, the biggest media franchise on earth. I am essentially an Anatic recording this, so what do I know about making money? There are also some special modes. There's potentially little quests, so it could be win 3 battles with a electric type Pokemon and you'll get some victory points. That sounds nice. Obviously we've got the battle modes we know, all the formats, single, double, triple, inverse and rotation are all here, which is nice to see some of the other formats represented. I don't know how much play they'll get outside of private games, but I hope to see gimmick seasons in the off season, if you like post Worlds. That could be fun. That could be exciting. Lots of tutorials. Presumably all the NPCs that you meet are related to the currencies or particular in-game services. I'm guessing there'll be cosmetics eventually, but I mean, honestly, the game just looks ugly, so who knows? Yeah, there's also the refined is not the right word. Revitalize, no. different stat system. So IVs, as far as I'm aware, are gone, and EVs too, and in their place are 66 stat points that you can allocate with different for different Pokemon. Those stat points, I believe, also have their own currency you can purchase, and if you want to teach Pokemon new moves or change their moves, I believe that also costs currency, which is ridiculous. So presumably that is to curb existing genning methods for, say, Scarlet Violet, Sword Shield, Legends Arceus, where you could generate Pokemon with pre-built stats and EVs and IVs, or training them in different games, and then simply importing them over and having a massive advantage over your opponents who may be newer to the game, or especially playing on mobile, especially with the Pokemon Home access, right? I would counter that this is ridiculously stupid. I've used the word ridiculous a lot in this video, but I'd counter that as silly, and that, you know, lots of people are going to want to be able to play and train with their Pokemon on the main games, potentially, especially with Gen 10, where who knows what kind of convenience and quality of life features we'll get for training that make it easier. But instead we have to use the arbitrary 66 stat points. This also means things like minimum speed, say Amoonguss or Incineroar or Prim that you might use in Trick Room, don't matter, but I suppose that doesn't matter. I think it just reduces the barrier to entry, right? But it also reduces the complexity and the scope for player expression. So I suppose it's a bit of a trade-off. And I suppose in the name of making it more accessible, I suppose it's a change. We'll have to see. I think I wouldn't mind if it wasn't paywalled behind a currency to allocate points or change moves. I think that is a harmful practice. As I've said before, I think it's just so overly monetized, but it's bound to be the case with this being a free-to-play experience. Yeah, I mean, the whole point of Champions, right, is to be the home of competitive, and despite this, because I imagine of the mobile limitation or the mobile market, the games visually do just not look very inspiring at all. It looks very bland. It looks pretty weak. Like anime, you know, think back to Pokemon Battle Revolution or Colosseum that had these tailored animations. So we've memed about it before in the Pokemon community regarding the mainline games, but this is supposed to be like the spiritual successor to those particular like stadium games, and this just does not look good. I'll be real. I could be wrong on launch. It could look amazing, but so far I'm left unimpressed. There'll be a whole video on this game on launch, and I've talked long enough about stuff nobody really cares about. So let's talk about what everyone's really here for: Pokemon Winds and Pokemon Waves Generation 10 reveal. Now, a few of my friends and I were talking about this. I am very excited by what I've seen here, contrastingly to Champions, I know. I really like the starters, particularly Brout. I think they took a minute and they are growing on me already. I like Brout. I think he's really silly and funny, and I love the little sort of the seed blossoming into a little sapling, and that becoming like his beak is the seed and the eyebrows are the sapling. I think that's a lovely little touch that I only found thanks to, I think, Skyen's shorts, where he does Pokemon design reviews. That was really cool. I like Pombon. It's very cute, very silly, and very head empty, like a lot of dog Pokemon these days. But I hope he stays on all fours and doesn't become a muscular dog like the dog from Undertale. And then lastly, there's Gekwa the lizard. It looks a bit like an extremely assured and flamboyant Sobble, but I suppose that's really just in the fact that they share a species and have big eyes. I think Gekwa looks a lot more put together than Sobble ever did. I think it looks a lot more cohesive and a bit freakish, and I kind of like it. Hopefully it just doesn't transform into a giant James Bond lizard, and we should be good. Really, I'm quite excited to see how these starters turn out. There's something slightly uncanny about them, but I think part of that is just seeing them in a less graphically garbage setting too. I think they'll grow on us all with time, and there's a lot to be said for all the starters previously also feeling like this to people. So I wait with bated breath to see the full Evos and the abilities, the hidden abilities I should say, and with Game Freak being what it is now, the signature moves too, no doubt will be important. But I'm excited for the starters. I can now talk about the region. I don't know what the region's called yet. I don't think we know. Looks like a sort of tropical region. A lot of people are saying Southeast Asia, like Indonesia or Singapore. I could also see Greece. A lot to do with some of the white architecture on that big octopus-looking building we saw early on in the trailer. But I don't know. I haven't bothered reading up-to-date leaks. I haven't read a ton of speculation, so it could well be either. If I had to guess, I would say probably Southeast Asia is more likely than Greece, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was Greece also. And graphically, this looks like the step up that Pokemon needed. Does it look like the best game ever? Does it even look as good as, say, Dark Souls? No, but it's clearly stylized. It's clearly not trying to be that. I like that I'm in the minority here, but I like that we've returned to the semi-stylized, semi-realistic art style from Scarlet and Violet. I love my Pokemon to have a bit more texture to them, a bit more feasibility. I think part of the strength of certainly classic Pokemon designs in many cases are that they are somewhat grounded. Now, of course, as grounded as a frog with a flower on its back or a turtle with 2 blaster cannons can be, but I like that they are sort of, you could biologically work out how they may function, and I think that having a world with that sort of style, more realistic style to ground them in, works for them, and also lets them shine more as, you know, spectacular, fantastical creatures. So that's nice. I think the water effects, also the water graphics, we have reflections, look very good, and I'm happy to see that Game Freak have discovered what ambient occlusion is. Finally, proper lighting on Pokemon, shadows that are close on objects that are closer to the ground being darker and whatnot. I think there's a lot to like here. I've also read about the hoverboard mechanic in the game. You know, it will be I think, what is it? You get a lead tied to you, and you can use it on any Pokemon to sort of dive around the water or go on land or in the air. I'll wait to assess that till we actually see it, but that is quite cool if that is going to be the case, kind of like the synchro mechanic or the sync mechanic, I think it is, from the Scarlet and Violet DLC, the Blue Disc or whatever, Indigo Disc, that's the one. The Indigo DLC. So I'm excited for this. I've also heard it rumored we're keeping turn-based. I would be shocked if we're not, especially with champions and stuff. The battle, the real-time formula of ZA is fun, but I don't think it has as much staying power. Some people may disagree with me, but I thought it was refreshing at the time, but going back to play it, it's actually quite tedious, because with the reduction of stat stages and sort of reduction in complexity in exchange for more positional battles, I find it just has less like long-lasting enjoyment, and it becomes a bit button mashy and samey. You just hit 3 attacks and then, in my mind, protect, and then you're pretty much good, and then you spam to get a mega, and then if you get a mega, you just kind of win. It also means makes non-mega Pokemon just pointless and pretty boring to use, because you're not getting that mega power, that huge power boost. You get 4+ moves instead of 20 seconds of Limitless. So that's pretty pointless. So I'm glad we're back to turn-based. Allegedly, as for the rest of it, I mean, it looks lovely. I'm encouraged. I hope to see voice acting, really. That would be expected. I doubt we'll get it, because it's still Game Freak, but I really hope we do. And I think, based on the visuals of this game compared to Scarlet and Violet, I am quite optimistic. Happy to be on the Switch 2 exclusively. I know a lot of people are Debbie Downers about it, and that's absolutely fine. And when further stuff's revealed, I may be too, but I think the most encouraging thing for me is that this game is not coming out until 2027. And they haven't speculated a time, so that could be early 27, it could be late 27, but they're getting nearly a full, at least, most likely, another full year of work on this game. And I think that's a very, very good sign, because that means the longest gap, I think, ever between generations in Pokemon, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's a very good thing. I'm very excited to see what comes next for Winds and Waves. I hope strongly that Champions can defy what looks to be a very depressing launch and replacement of Scarlet and Violet. I really hope that they can make it work, but I will hold out hope because this franchise has not, just does not seem to ever really have a cohesive direction. And Pokopia looks fun. It's not really the sort of game I'm interested in playing. I get enough of my fix of that through Minecraft and through Animal Crossing, and I don't need to play another one. But if it's for you, I think it looks like a very promising little cozy game. I think it's done by some of the same people who did Dragon Quest Builders, and I hear those games review very positively, so I would be quite confident actually about how this game turns out. It looks like a good concept of building your own sort of Pokemon region. I look forward to seeing how that plays out review-wise, and I might give it a try if people close to me think it's really good. So that's going to be it for today. Really just sort of a more low-effort video, admittedly, just to get back into recording and doing videos. So I will see you next time for a slightly more high-effort, to bare minimum of the PowerPoint, I suppose, video. But I just wanted to get some thoughts out on the new Pokemon Day reveals. Those are a bit unscripted and a bit raw, but those are my thoughts. Thank you all for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.